spent so many years peering through time, looking for you.
Thanks for watching another Slice of Sci-Fi movie review. I'm Noah Richmond.
And I'm Daren Gulsvik.
Today we are talking about Doctor Strange!
We harness energy and shape reality.
The Avengers protect the world from physical dangers. We safeguard it against more mystical threats.
So the movie is a film that I know for myself, I went in with pretty lowered expectations because the director, Scott Derrickson, had directed a whole string of films that I considered to be less than impressive. I mean, I think Sinister might have been his best known, certainly horror film.
Yeah.
But he did the Day of the Earth Stood Still remake. He did Hellraiser Inferno. He did.
Well, the only one I saw of that was The Day the Earth Stood Still, and I couldn't stand it. So
Yeah.
small sample size, but yeah, not excited.
Yeah. So I was pretty disappointed when I heard Marvel pick this director, but
Been proven wrong before.
You're right. Been proven wrong before I went in with with reasonable hopes, and. So for myself, I would say that the film was not nearly as bad as I feared it could have been.
Mm-hmm.
And it did not live up to the greatest of my hopes of what it could be either. I thought that this was a film that got Doctor Strange right. I thought that it really did a very good job with how Cumberbatch portrayed Doctor Strange, and also how it showed the mysticism of that world without, how shall I say it?
Overcomplicating it?
Yeah, there's that, but also without exoticizing the East. Like, it takes place in
Right.
Kathmandu, and so you're thinking, okay, it's going to be another Western film with a bunch of people that have absolutely no understanding of that culture, and therefore they turn those cultures into some story that fits some idea they have of what's exotic. And it did a pretty good job of actually taking this sort of cartoon story, and it just happens to be placed there. And,
Right.
So it isn't really making any generality statements about...
I mean, it's not reserved to that alone, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I mean, I thought it did a pretty fun comic book story. I thought I enjoyed how it handled magic, and definitely enjoyed how it handled the character of Strange himself.
Right.
Showing him having this transformation from this arrogant surgeon to. Anyway, I've got my complaints, but I'm going to stop there with what I liked and ask what did you like about the film? What did you think it did right?
I mean, I agree with what you just said. I mean, again, I think we both liked Cumberbatch and his performance as Doctor Strange, Dr. Stephen Strange. And I was worried that, because were they going to get that arrogant comment, the way he acts, that arrogance, right? And they seem to have nailed that. Again, we can talk all day about being placed and being culturally either insensitive or not. It was a little commercial, but I think they had to make it that way so it was approachable.
Right.
But I think for the most part, I was like you going into it, not expecting a whole lot, and I enjoyed it, and that's more than I could say about a lot of the DC stuff. So, and I think I think Doctor Strange is a hard one to try to do right in the movie, in a 2-hour movie, because it's so complicated. It's a complex character. His level of who he is and his powers and how he gets them. It's such a long, complicated timeline, and I think you have to make it approachable for the Western audience that go to the movie every day. So
Right. Although, boy, it sure does throw out an awful lot of psychedelia.
Yeah, I mean, it's like we saw it in 3D, and that was one of the few movies that I actually would recommend seeing in 3D because it was that good, for the effect and appreciating the visuals aspects of it, Because when Steve Ditko drew it, that's what I always saw as well. I mean, that whole psychedelia that was popular at the time, and
Right.
I don't know if that was an influence on why he did the comic,
Right.
Yeah, no, it was. So what did you not like about the movie?
Okay, yeah. So, anyway, so those were all the things that I thought it got right. But when you get right down to it, this was a film where there was, you see him go through this accident, and he's looking for meaning, and he travels to the east, and he finds this, cult of wizards, and there's almost no transition from. You have the training, and then suddenly he goes from that to fighting the bad guys.
Right.
And the transition is just not there. And again, I mean, we know that they have to fit this into a 2-hour window, but basically he's told, he starts his training, and then he's told, by the way, there is this dark side, let us show you, and all of a sudden he's fighting it, and all of a sudden he's a master wizard. So very...
Yeah, it was not weighted well. I mean, and the fact that, because you said the format of a 2-hour movie, it has to be able to expedite this whole concept, but I think it could have been done in a more realistic way. You can show the passage of time and show it reflectively, I mean, hell, you go all the way back to Rocky and how he became this, but anyway, not to digress. I have that same problem with the movie. I mean, you became this arrogant doctor, and all of a sudden now he's rubbing elbows with Mordo and students of this craft who have been at it for decades, centuries maybe, and
Right.
here he is now, just a month, it felt like just in one day, that he has now accomplished that is
Right.
where you can best even it's just, that was a hard
Yeah.
one for me as well. I mean, because it's like you can't get that powerful that fast. I mean, especially,
Right.
so.
So the transitions, and I thought, I mean, that was the most glaring one, but I thought all throughout it there were, issues with pacing and transition. But then the other thing is that this was a film that I'd be very interested to see what the director's cut looked like on this film, because apparently the backstory is that the director, the film that he delivered, Marvel Studios felt didn't have enough humor in it, so
Yeah.
they actually brought in a comedian to go write jokes and insert jokes in throughout the film, and there's a lot of not just jokes but sight gags that just don't fit.
Yeah, they're uncomfortable almost.
Yeah.
Yeah, I felt uncomfortable. It just felt forced. It's kind of the same way I felt about Suicide Squad, the forced humor. And we knew that there was a new, reshoots and everything.
Yep.
And it just didn't feel like, it didn't feel right.
Right.
Misplaced humor.
Yeah, I mean, definitely there was some studio meddling that was it was too obvious, and it really did detract quite a bit from me,
Yeah, it's
some
too bad.
some of the, especially some of the stuff they did with his cape was just,
Oh, God.
it
almost felt-
it just was like watching Tom and Jerry or something.
Well, and again, that's what I think by making it approachable to, the average moviegoer that doesn't have the backstory of Doctor Strange that maybe you and I do, and maybe that's asking too much. I don't know, but yeah, that wasn't necessary as far as I'm concerned to make the movie work either. I think I'm not saying you can't have humor in a movie, but it's like it has to work in a time and place. It has to be set up right. Like the Guardians of the Galaxy, I thought that was a great example of how humor works
Yeah.
for it.
Yeah.
But I mean, we're dealing with a superhero that has a dark power, and he deals with dark crevices of parallel universes and stuff. And so it's a subject matter that's not exactly something that you can sell to a 10-year-old. And I think that's been a problem from day one. That's why I was surprised when they announced they're making this movie. But it's so important to tell the story to actually set up the Infinity stones that they've got going on in Infinity Gauntlet. But I enjoyed it, but I know it could have been so much more, and I kind of would like to see if the director's cut, if they have one too, like you said,
Right,
maybe,
see how different it would be.
Yeah.
Yeah, although much as I did enjoy this film, and I would recommend seeing it, but I have to say I'm still not necessarily sold that this guy is a director that I want to follow. We'll see. We'll see what else.
I
he
am
comes
sold on
up with.
Cumberbatch as Doctor Strange, though.
Yeah, absolutely.
He was awesome.
Yeah.
I mean, just
Yeah.
they got the right role for that. And and again, I don't want to let this review think that I didn't enjoy the movie, because I did.
Yeah.
I enjoyed this movie, but
Yeah, it's worth seeing. It's just not up there in the top tier of films that Marvel's come out with,
Not even
and
close.
it definitely suffers from the studio meddling. And I think that probably pretty well sums up our thoughts on Doctor Strange.
Yep.
So thank you for watching Slice of Sci-Fi.
Talk to you soon.